Hello Physical Fiends, this video was recorded prior to Sony announcing that they are ceasing production on physical PlayStation discs in 2028. It's big news. I've probably addressed it in a video before this is actually out, but I want to let you know that's why there's no negative attitude in this video when there really should be. Let's get physical. It's Jordan here, back again with this month's update on all the physical releases coming to PlayStation and Xbox consoles. As always, this episode was researched, written, and edited by my man Tim. It's all down to him. It is a massive month, so let's get on with it. Nickelodeon Extreme Tennis next, releasing on the 1st of July for Xbox, PlayStation 5, and Switch in North America and Europe. An arcadey tennis game pulling together Nickelodeon characters from across multiple generations, with SpongeBob, Aang, TMNT characters, Danny Phantom, etc. Obviously more of a Mario Tennis clone than a sports sim, and I'm sure plenty of folk will appreciate seeing Garfield standing opposite Aang on the center court. Lost Ember Rekindled Edition is releasing on the 2nd of July for Xbox and PlayStation 5 in North America and Europe. A remastered version following a wolf and companion spirit through a world where you have the ability to possess different animals and experience flying through canyons as a bird or swimming through ruins as a fish. This new version adds Unreal Engine 5 upgrades alongside a new free roam mode and extra challenges. The original went largely ignored, although picked up some praise largely for its atmosphere and presentation rather than challenge. Very much one of those games designed to be an experience rather than beaten. Granblue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok is releasing on the 9th of July for PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch 2 as a game key worldwide. An expanded release of the Granblue Fantasy Relink, bringing side games as action RPG expanded on consoles, a fast-paced anime action RPG with players building teams and chaining together increasingly absurd attacks against enemies that gradually evolve from an MMO Monster Hunter clone to something far more interesting. The original was surprisingly well received after years in development hell, mostly because it turned out to be actually good, which remains one of gaming's less reliable outcomes, but my executive producers Adamantium, The Nemo 6, Alexander Cato, Jimmy A. Guerrero, Big Bruno, and AMH, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is releasing on the 9th of July for Xbox and PlayStation 5 worldwide. A rebuilt version of Black Flag, bringing Ubisoft's pirate favorite back with updated visuals and modern improvements while keeping the same mix of naval combat, exploration, and occasionally remembering there's an Assassin's Creed storyline happening somewhere in the background. Black Flag has spent years sitting near the top of many series rankings, largely because the players enjoyed being pirates significantly more than they enjoyed climbing towers. There's also a certain inevitability to this release. Ubisoft does what Ubisoft does best, milk money. But if you've never played it and are curious, it's certainly worth a look. And my executive producers, God of Resin and Instacritic, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. EA Sports College Football 27, releasing on the 9th of July for Xbox and PS5 in North America. EA's revived college football series returns with updated teams, rosters, and another season of marching bands, mascots. The previous game performed extremely well, largely because players have spent over a decade waiting for the series to return. And my executive producer Lewis K has chosen this as his pick of the month. Echoes of Aincrad Sword Art Online is releasing on the 10th of July for Xbox and PS5 worldwide. A new Sword Art Online action RPG revisiting Aincrad, once again dropping you into the series' most recognizable setting of floating castles, dangerous floors, and increasingly oversized swords, and recreating key moments from the anime. As ever with the SAO games, there is a balancing act between appealing to long-time fans and explaining any of this to normal people, because the phrase "trapped inside a video game again" is now getting quite long in the tooth. Mouse PI for Hire is releasing on the 10th of July for Xbox, PS5, and Switch 2 worldwide. A noir-inspired first-person shooter built around 1930s rubber hose cartoon animation, casting you as a private investigator Jack Pepper in the city of Mouseburg. Beneath the visual gimmick sits a surprisingly traditional boomer shooter with fast movement, oversized weapons, just with a Maltese Falcon flair. It's been received very well since launch, with much praise for the art style and combat, and Jordan here, I can verify that it is a really good game, and my executive producer, Mr. Awesome, has chosen this as his pick of the month. And if you want it or any of the games featured in this video, then check the links down below in the description and pinned comment. I have linked to VGP, Video Games Plus, or a fantastic company with free worldwide shipping on orders over 75 Canadian bucks, like 55 American dollars, and any purchase made via those links helps support me, this channel, this series in the best way possible. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Dragon is Dead is releasing on the 14th of July for Xbox, PlayStation 5 and Switch in North America and Europe. A side-scrolling roguelike action RPG mixing hack and slash combat with class builds, loot systems and repeated runs through corrupted worlds. Unlock new skills and gear over time with the familiar die repeatedly until the numbers become ridiculous structure. The PC version built a decent audience during early access, with players generally praising the combat and build variety, and my executive producer, Mr. Lee from Eastern NC on eBay, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. K-pop idol Stories Road to Debut is releasing on the 16th of July for Xbox, PlayStation 5 and Switch in North America and Europe. A management and visual novel hybrid following aspiring performers trying to survive auditions, training schedules, career choices and relationships. Likely not too deep or going to appeal to too many, but I can see this being a hit with someone, and my executive producer Azareth, he's chosen this as his pick of the month. Aphelion is releasing on July the 16th on PlayStation 5 in North America and Europe. Don't Nod sci-fi adventure follows astronauts after crash landing on the frozen world of Persephone, with exploration, climbing, stealth sections, and survival all feeding into a more personal story about trying to find each other again. The project was developed alongside the European Space Agency, which explains why the science and mission details lean a bit more grounded compared to Space Laser Solved Everything. Early reactions have been mixed to poor. The atmosphere and visuals have drawn a lot of praise, but heavy criticism landed on the gameplay feeling far too linear and padded out. Warhammer 40k Speed Freaks is releasing on July the 16th for PlayStation 5 in North America and Europe, a multiplayer combat racer built entirely around orcs, driving ramshackle vehicles at dangerous speeds while firing ridiculous weapons at each other. The console release arrives with all previous updates and content included, following a solid reception on PC with a decent player base. Subtlety was never really on the table here, the clue was in the giant spikes welded into everything, and my executive producer JCross7776, he's chosen this as his pick of the month. Cult of the Lamb is releasing on the 17th of July for PlayStation 5 and Switch in North America and Europe. This is the definitive, a complete edition of the cult management roguelike, bundling together the base game and the mountain of updates and extra content added since launch. You're building a woodland cult, keeping followers happy and balancing resource management with dungeon runs and occasional rituals. And my executive producer Ghostbune has chosen this as their pick of the month. Forensic Crime Scene Detective is releasing on the 17th of July for PlayStation 5 in Europe. It sounds like such a European title. A first-person investigation game examining crime scenes, collecting evidence, and piecing together events from small details. Fingerprints, blood patterns, photographs, and witness accounts all feed into reconstructing what actually happened. Feels like Steam slot, but perhaps it is a diamond waiting to be found, but probably not. Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War, July the 21st on PlayStation 5, sadly on Switch 2 it's a game key. A retro-style first-person shooter from the team behind Warhammer 40k Boltgun, dropping into Federation's war against the Arachnids with all the propaganda, explosions and giant insects that it entails. Rather than endless corridors, missions are built around larger objectives, defending positions, clearing nests, and surviving very large numbers of things trying to eat ya. There's even a separate Arachnid campaign that lets players fight from the bug side. The reception on PC has actually been very positive, with players praising the gunplay and commitment to the source material. Achilles Double Pack Troy Edition is releasing on the 22nd of July for PlayStation 5 in Europe. A physical bundle bringing together Achilles Legend Untold and Achilles Survivor, both from Dark Point Games. Two games approach Greek mythology with a top-down roguelike sort of gameplay, horde combat, and build experimentation. Two Achilles games in one box set feels efficient, at least. Dementium the Ward is releasing on the 23rd of July for PlayStation 5 and Switch in Europe. The cult Nintendo DS horror game returns, dragging its polygon-abandoned hospital setting and unpleasant creatures onto modern hardware. Originally notable for somehow squeezing a surprisingly effective survival horror experience onto a handheld, the game mixes first-person shooting, puzzle-solving, and a constant sense that absolutely nowhere is safe. It still carries that mid-2000s horror energy and edginess, nostalgic, but for those who never experienced it back in the day. It's probably not essential, but a curiosity. Disgaea Mayhem is releasing on the 23rd of July for PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch in North America and Europe. Not Disgaea 8, and not even called Disgaea at all originally. The game released in Japan as Kyoran Makaizum, before NIS America seemingly decided Western audiences might respond better if the word Disgaea was written in very large letters on the box. Underneath, the rename though is still very much, it's carrying that series' DNA. This spin-off drops the usual grid-based strategy in favor of hack-and-slash action combat, with hordes of enemies with familiar systems like reincarnation, absurd stat growth, and item world mechanics still surviving the jump. But yeah, it feels a bit like somebody at NIS America looked at Disgaea and said, yeah, but what if we removed the thinking and replaced it with hitting things very quickly? It's kind of what you get, and my executive producer Jeddah Crow has chosen this as his pick of the month. Heading Out is releasing on the 23rd of July for PlayStation 5 in Europe, a narrative road trip game inspired by classic American road movies like Vanishing Point and Easy Rider, blending arcade driving with roguelike structure and a comic book black and white presentation. You're running from your own fears across endless highways, making choices that affect fuel, car condition, police attention, the people you meet, and even how radio hosts talk about your growing legend. Every run reshuffles events, routes, and encounters. It drew a decent amount of attention on PC because there isn't anything else like it really. Some compared it to Road 96 and Pacific Drive, though it sits somewhere between Road Trip Simulator and playable Americana Fever Dream. Flight Path Adventures in Venaris is releasing on the 24th of July for PlayStation 5 in North America. A vertically scrolling shooter, but rather than the more classic shmup design, it tries to add more structure around the shooting with branching decisions, mission objectives, procedurally altered stages, and upgrade stops between missions where you repair your ships and customize weapon loadouts. Reviews are not too bad, though most landed in the rough but charming sort of camp. The upgrade system and branching routes earned praise, while criticism tended to focus on uneven mission design. By the way, if you're new here and you enjoy physical video games, you enjoy actually owning the thing you pay money for, then hit that subscribe button, okay? This is the channel that you want to be at, okay? You want to see my videos, okay? Because I'll help you out with your physical game collection and we can keep physical video games alive, okay? Subscribe, do your bit. Halo Campaign Evolved is releasing on the 28th of July for Xbox and PlayStation 5 worldwide. A full Unreal Engine 5 remake of Halo Combat Evolved, rebuilding the original campaign while trying to avoid becoming a museum piece. The big addition are 3 entirely new prequel missions focusing on Master Chief before the events of the first game, alongside expanded weapons, extra vehicles, reworked level layouts, and a stack of gameplay modifiers through Skulls. Halo Studios have also confirmed things like vehicle hijacking and modern movement options, though the original game code is apparently still sitting underneath all the shiny new tech. There's already been a lot of discussion about how things should actually change. Some players want a faithful restoration job, others want 25 years worth of improvements folded into it. Still feels weird seeing Halo on PlayStation, and my executive producers, Viz, Firm Returns, Mojo, and Nerdy Sean, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Gothic Classic is releasing on the 20th of July for Xbox and PS5 in North America and Europe. The original 2001 cult RPG finally arrives on modern consoles, bringing all the faction politics, brutal progression, and wonderfully awkward rough edges that made it such a favorite in the first place. You begin as an absolute nobody thrown into the Valley of Minds, where nearly every creature, character, and wildlife encounter exists purely to remind you of that fact. And my executive producer Vey has chosen this as his pick of the month. Shadow Gambit, the Curse Crew Complete Edition, releasing on the 29th of July for PlayStation 5 in Europe. A complete edition of Me's game, pirate RPG strategy title, bundling together the base release and post-launch content into one package. Command a crew of cursed pirates with supernatural abilities, sneaking through heavily guarded islands and carefully chaining skills together, and obviously quick saving every 6 seconds. Well received on Steam and fills a niche for sure, and my executive producers Dane Wilkinson and Madhog110, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Truxton Extreme is releasing on the 30th of July for Xbox, PS5 and Switch 2 worldwide. The long-running Tatsujin series returns for its first new mainline entry in decades, bringing back the series' famously aggressive vertical shooting and screen-filling chaos. New mechanics expand on the classic formula with weapon customization and modern scoring systems, though the core idea remains unchanged: survive an unreasonable amount of bullets. There's some contention on the 16:9 display, but I think it looks amazing, and we desperately need more experiments like Under Defeat and other shmups like it. Very excited to play. The Wandering Village is releasing on the 30th of July for PlayStation 5 and Switch in North America. A city-building survival game with a genuinely strong hook. Humanity survives on the back of a gigantic wandering creature called Onbu, traveling across a world covered in toxic spores. Building the settlement itself is only half the problem. You also have to decide how you treat the creature carrying your entire civilization around, whether that means caring for it, working alongside it, or quietly exploiting it for resources. It earned a lot of attention on Steam because the idea is quite a lot stronger than simply, another colony sim. Pools is releasing on the 30th of July for PS VR2 in Europe, a first-person exploration horror game that leans heavily into the whole backroom aesthetic, dropping players into endless swimming pools, tiled corridors, and quietly unsettling spaces with almost no direct explanation. There's no weapons, no combat systems, and often no obvious threat at all. The discomfort mostly comes from wandering around places that feel strangely familiar while your brain repeatedly tells you something is wrong. It became incredibly popular because of how little it actually does. Turns out empty rooms and bad vibes remain remarkably effective. The reviews are overwhelmingly positive across the board. Star Trek Voyager: Across the Unknown is releasing on the 30th of July for Xbox, PS5, Switch and Switch 2 on a Game Key. This one aimed purely at dedicated Voyager fans. Judging from reviews, it is a lower profile narrative adventure focused on dialogue choices, exploration, and crew interactions aboard Voyager during its journey, with the story built around investigating an unexplored region of space rather than shooting first and asking questions later. Reception has been fairly terrible, to be frank. The Deluxe edition mostly exists for collectors because if you're importing this one, it's probably for the box on the shelf rather than the game. But my executive producers Robotech and Chase Mine, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Kusan: City of Wolves is releasing on the 30th of July for PlayStation 5 and Switch in Europe. A fast-paced top-down shooter from Korean developer Circle from Dot that resembles Hotline Miami and Ruiner an awful lot. Combat revolves around one-hit death encounters, chaining gunfire, parries, blades, and finishes all together. It's not out digitally yet, so time will tell if it's worth playing. Overthrown is releasing on July the 30th for PS5 in Europe, a kingdom-building game where you play as a monarch wielding a magical crown with physic powers, letting you pick up and throw buildings, trees, resources, and entire sections of your settlement around. Rather than carefully placing every structure, the whole thing leans into speed and chaos with co-op play and survival systems sitting underneath the city management. Pampas Selene is releasing on the 31st of July for PlayStation 5 and Switch in Europe, an MSX2-inspired Metroidvania following Pampas Selene through a massive demon-filled castle with over 200 rooms to explore, controlling both characters either by swapping between them, solo, or playing cooperatively, while collecting artifacts and abilities granted by Greek gods. From the creator of Unepic, Ghost 1.0, and Unmetal, there's very good pedigree here if you want some old school energy. And my executive producer, Juice250, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Paw Patrol: Dino World is releasing on the 31st of July for everything in North America and Europe. The latest Paw Patrol outing, now venturing into dinosaur territory for another collection of minigames, exploration sections, and child-friendly platforming. One for the kids, as expected. Eden Genesis, releasing on the 31st of July for PS5 and Switch in Europe, a precision platformer from Aeternin Noctis, the developer of that one, this time through a cyberpunk world. The twist is that stress itself becomes a mechanic, pushing abilities too far increases mental instability, affecting gameplay and forcing players to manage movement and powers carefully rather than simply sprinting through levels. Early impressions on Steam praised the movement and challenge, though some players found the trial and error structure a little unforgiving. Twilight Parade Moonlit Mononoke is releasing on the 31st of July for PlayStation 5 in North America, a side-scrolling bullet hell shooter centered around the Hyaki Yagyo. Thank you, Tim, for that one. The Night Parade of 100 Demons from Japanese folklore. This you play as the Oni twins and their friends after not being invited to the celebration. A one-man band developer and a shmup with ambition. Only 4 Steam reviews and an obscure release for sure. And actually, just as I'm saying that, I remember this game, and it also includes 2 bonus games, so you're getting 3 shmups in one, which is nice. A quick mention to some delayed releases that should have come out previously or previously did release in other regions. Chicken Hair and the Treasure of Spiking Beard, Memento, Murky Divers, and Super Meat Boy 3D. Alright, limited run games. Blood Omen 1 and 2 are both getting the limited run treatment individually though. The first game introduced Kain back in 1996 as a murdered nobleman resurrected as a vampire, mixing top-down action RPG design with one of gaming's darkest fantasy worlds and enough betrayal, curses and doom prophecies to keep several Shakespeare plays occupied. Blood Omen 2, meanwhile, shifted into full 3D action and a very different version of Nosgoth, following an older and considerably angrier Kain trying to rebuild his power. Blood Omen 2 has always been a bit of an oddity within the series. It reviewed reasonably well at the time, but fans often treated it as the awkward middle child. These are just straight up ports, nothing really worthy of emulating them. Still, Legacy of Kain has become one of gaming's most requested comeback series, and this will likely do very well, and my executive producer Punky Dooster has chosen these as his picks of the month. Bendy in the Dark Revival, Bendy and the Ink Machine, and Bendy Lone Wolf, a triple helping of Bendy from limited run games, all on Xbox. Yes, these release on other consoles individually in retail in all regions, but if you want Xbox, you're gonna have to pre-order from limited run games. Fate Reawakened pre-orders for this end on the 19th of July for PS5 and Switch, a remastered collection bringing together all 4 original Fate dungeon crawlers. Long before Torchlight, several of Fate's developers would go on to form Runic Games, and their shared DNA is celebrated. Endless loot, randomly generated dungeons, and pets that could be sent back to town carrying your inventory while you kept exploring. This is more like Diablo's more relaxed cousin. Lake Complete Edition. Pre-orders end on the 19th of July for PlayStation 5. This bundles together Lake and its extra content, following a city worker leaving behind her life to take over postal deliveries in her hometown of Providence Oaks during the summer of '86. Most of the game revolves around driving routes, meeting locals, and deciding what Meredith actually wants from life, which sounds almost aggressively low stakes, which it is. It's effectively a game about taking breaks from stress. EDF, World Brothers 1 and 2, yes, limited run doing more double stuff, but again individual releases. Spin-offs of the Earth Defense Force, limited run are doing these voxel-based bug shooters on PS4 and PS5. Pre-orders ending July the 26th. While they are not as well regarded as the mainline series, especially from EDF fans, I personally find them really interesting and good games. Not as good, but still pretty good. Alright, the imports, Play Asia territory. If you want to import any of these games, you can do so via Play Asia, and if you click my Play Asia link, like click mine, okay, don't click anybody else's because it can mess things up, alright? If you click my link and only my link, you can get 5% off anything if you use the discount code Jordan2026. Ganbare Goemon Daishuugo is releasing on the 2nd of July for PS5 and Switch in Japan. Konami and M2 are finally giving Ganbare Goemon a proper retro collection, bundling together 13 games from across the Famicom, Super Famicom, and Game Boy years. No N64 titles, sadly. For older Western players, this was the Mystical Ninja series. For Japan, it was one of Konami's biggest series. This one's getting a shorter mention here because the collection is entirely in Japanese. There's no English at all, but many of the games will still be kind of playable. Just have your Google Translate on your phone on standby and you'll be good. There's been zero mention of this getting a Western localization, and considering the amount of effort it would take from Konami, I kind of doubt it, but maybe don't give up hope if you're really hoping. Don't know what I'm saying. But my executive producers, John Jamin and Josh Foote, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Forward to the Sky, originally released on PC back in 2015 before later making its way to Switch. Forward to the Sky is a light action RPG following a princess climbing a mysterious tower to uncover the history of a lost civilization through scattered crystal memories. Combat, exploration, and puzzle solving give the feeling of a Zelda dungeon sort of thing. The problem is, it's like 40 minutes long. It's basically one Zelda dungeon, and they're charging like $30 for it, or $50, whatever it is. It's crazily short, but my executive producer Cartoon Soren has chosen this as his pick of the month. Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger X1 and 2 Dual Collection, releasing on the 9th of July for PS5, Switch, and Switch 2 in Japan and Asia. Integrates bundles together both Luminous Avenger X games with all the DLC included, along with balanced updates and a new endless battle mode. Unlike the main Azure Striker Gunvolt games, these entries shift focus to Copen, turning things into much faster, more aggressive side-scrolling action built around chaining movements and attacks together. As with most Inti-Creates games, they are built brilliantly, but there are also so many of them. A good entry to pick up if you've never played it before. I do recommend them. Unrailed 2 Back on Track, releasing on the 9th of July for PS5 and Switch in Japan. The original Unrailed turned laying tracks into a multiplayer hit, and the sequel attempts to follow on. Up to 4 players still scramble around gathering resources and building rail lines in front of an actively moving train, but now with branching routes, roguelike upgrades, and extra biomes. It looks like it's managed to capture the experience of organized teamwork gradually collapsing into shouting and chaos quite efficiently. 70s style robot anime Geppy-X is releasing on the 16th of July for PlayStation 5 and Switch in Japan. One of the PS1 cult releases returns this month, with Geppy-X essentially being a playable love letter to 1970s super robot anime. It's structured like a TV series, complete with animated episodes, deliberately melodramatic voice acting, fake advert breaks, and a cast of giant robots that look like they escaped from a stack of old OVAs. Different pilots and robots shift gameplay styles between stages, making it feel more like you're jumping between episodes than progressing through a normal linear style game. An absolute classic, and the original PS1 copy is prohibitively expensive on its own, well worth a look. And my executive producer Dave Horworth, my man Tim, and me, Jordan, we've chosen this as our pick of the month. eBaseball Pro Spirit 2026, releasing on the 16th of July for PS5 in Japan and Asia. Konami's long-running baseball series returns with updated rosters and seasonal changes, continuing its role as one of Japan's biggest sports franchises. And I believe this is the first time it's officially in English, so this could be a potentially big import if you're into baseball. And my executive producer Cole Animals has chosen this as his pick of the month. Hi-Fi Rush is releasing on the 16th of July for PS5 in Japan, originally released physically by Limited Run Games in North America. Hi-Fi Rush gets a Japanese retail release this month, so mentioning it for those who missed out on the LRG drop. Tango Gameworks' rhythm action game became one of gaming's more pleasant surprises by taking character action combat and locking everything to the beat of a soundtrack, making the whole thing feel effortless. And my executive producer Sora Cat has chosen this as her pick of the month. Blue Reflection Quartet is releasing on the 30th of July for PlayStation 5 and Switch in Japan. This turns out to be much more than a simple anniversary package. Blue Reflection Quartet effectively acts as a complete rebuild of the entire Blue Reflection project, bringing together the original Blue Reflection, Second Light, the sequel, Blue Reflection Ray, the anime adaptation, and perhaps most interestingly, Blue Reflection Sun, the mobile game that was previously shut down. It was a gacha game. Details remain a bit scant, but it seems an amazingly good package. The franchise itself built a fairly dedicated following through its unusual mix of magical girl themes, slice of life storytelling, and turn-based RPG system. And even the anime and the mobile game, they are now reworked as RPGs in this package. So very interesting. It's going to be a very big import exclusive, and my executive producers G Bautista 100 and Miami Sunrise, they've chosen this as their pick of the month. Japan is also getting these games that the West already has. and they're getting these games which do not have English. Alright, let's quickly move on to the community spotlight. Here I will showcase some pictures from my executive producers, basically my high tier Patreon supporters. These nuts sent in this photo with Mount Hole, a very strange, peculiar game from Limited Legacy Games. They printed 1,000 copies of it, and the game has been delisted digitally from various platforms. It seems like this physical has been designed to become a bit of a myth. VGP still have copies of it if you want something very strange in your collection. Firm Return sent in these Xbox titles. Remember when they already remade Halo 1? Well, here you go. Now they're remaking it again this month. Almost as many times as Nintendo remaking Star Fox. Instacritic sent in this photo with Super Rare Games' PS5 titles. We tend not to cover them in this video series because by the time we can warn you, they're kind of already sold out, mostly. Let me know if you want Tim to cover these in future videos, even if they are sold out by the time we tell you about them. Jeddah Crow picked up a couple of games, including Pragmata, quite a popular new IP from Capcom, although I did notice people online saying they wished it had normal combat, at which point, just play a different game. You're missing the entire point of the game if you take that out. Madhawk110 sent in this photo picking up Astro Bot. It's almost a requirement to have this in your PlayStation 5 collection. Miami Sunrise sent in this photo picking up the collector's edition of Crime Machina from NIS America. Extremely beautiful artwork, maybe better than the game itself. Mr. Lee from Eastern NC on eBay sent in this photo with Darkwood on PlayStation 5. I usually think of Super Rare's Switch release of this game, but it's, remember, Limited Run did this on PS5. My man in Japan sent in this photo with Incombini, which released in Japan very recently, but in North America, you're gonna have to wait until September if you want either the PlayStation 5 or Nintendo Switch 2 physical release. And there is this episode done. It's finished. Thank you so much to my executive producers over on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support, plus you watching right now. If you watched all the way through, please leave me a pirate emoji in the comments in honor of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And have a fantastic day. Take care.